Good afternoon and welcome to today's vlog for Thursday the 14th of August. I hope you're all well and you've been having a good day. Straight into it today. I don't give my vlogs a title, but if I did, it would probably today be along the lines of started okay but ultimately frustrating, which in truth is probably most days for us drivers on the Courier exchange. Yesterday, I left you yesterday. I'd had a below target day, 2 jobs, £150, but had a third job that was just a load in Clacton-on-Sea for delivery to London E3 at 8 o'clock this morning. Now, the daily totals, daily figures, doesn't really make too much difference. I could have put this job on yesterday's figures and made yesterday very, very good and started from Bow at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock this morning or whatever, or I could have do what I do and put it on today's figures, or you could split that job 50-50. It doesn't really matter. It's just at the end of the week at 6 o'clock on a Friday when you park the van up, what your total income is for the week that matters. Anyway, so on this job, I just want to talk about the shipper that's given me this job, and I was going to name them. I'm not now because I think it's probably unfair. When I moved up to Brightlingsea last summer in June, I'd been there about a month and I've moved 70 odd miles, so I had to really sort of almost start again regarding contacts. And obviously there's some shippers that appear wherever you are in the country, and that's fine. And this particular shipper, I'd been on a couple of their jobs, but I hadn't really been close enough to do them. This particular day, I was about 10 minutes away from a pickup, and put a price on it. I can't remember now where it was going to, and I can't remember what the price I put on it, but he did ring me up and said, job's yours, your pricing is wrong. So I'm like, okay. He said, you're too cheap. He said, stick another £20 on it, it's fine. And it took me aback because no one's ever said that to me before, but I appreciated it. I thought it was generous, and yeah, probably was fairly well priced at the end of the day. So I did the job and it's fine, and I've done some jobs for them since, and on a couple of occasions I've also amended the job that I've bid. I think the last one I put a price of £50 on it and he changed it to 55, and I just think that's wonderful. Not enough shippers do that. And the other thing as well with this guy, his payment terms are 7 days, which again is fairly unique, but he always pays less than that. It will literally be 2 days, 3 days, and he's paid. And that's fantastic, and I really would like to give him a name check, but I don't think it's fair, because I don't want anyone else who works for this guy in future to suddenly think that they should put some more money on the bid. But there are some good guys out there, and this guy is certainly one of them, and long may it continue. So on this job, picked up yesterday afternoon from Clacton, long wheelbase job, 73 miles, and I quoted 125. Now that, if you follow me, is my London price. Now this job was going to Bow in E3 for 8 o'clock delivery, so I'm not going into the congestion zone. I also wasn't probably going to have any problems with parking in Bow E3, unlike the West End. But I felt obviously picking the job up the day before, that deserves some recompense. So I went with a normal figure of 125. He rang me up. I was only about 25 minutes away from the pickup, so he gave me the job, and he said, I'm going to stick another 10 on it, make it 135. You've got to do an early start in the morning. It does need to be there for 8. And you know, again, much appreciated. And I'm always going to do a first class job. I don't want to do anything other than a first class job, but it makes you want to do the job even better if that's possible. So we got there. I've been to this collection point before. Lovely bunch of guys. It was 2 pallets, one normal standard pallet. The other pallet had some metal on it that was a little bit longer, so it's one of those jobs where you need 2 forklifts, one to hold from the side and one from behind to sort of push it in, but it's absolutely fine, loads of room, all strapped down, and yep, job done. So this morning, early start. I had to drop the wife off at the station. I already told her she's getting an early train, so we left home at 20 past 5. I dropped her just before 10 to 6 at Colchester and made my way down towards London. Roads are okay, no real issues even at that time in the morning. A little bit of traffic on the A12 as you get to the M25 junction, but there's roadworks if you go through that junction, so you know you're going to get a little bit of a hold up. Anyway, we arrived on site 7:30. Plenty of time, lovely. Rang the on-site contact. He was already on site. He said to me, asked me where I was parked, and I was parked by the entrance gate. He said, lovely, we can't open those gates till 8 o'clock because of the residents in the flats next door. This was a new build development. 8 o'clock, security opened the gates, guy come out, had a look at what I had on, said we might have a little problem because we've only got one forklift on site, but we'll get you in and we'll sort it out. And it was a little bit of to-in and fro-in to get this metalwork off. They had to try and put the forks inside the metalwork, which probably wasn't the greatest idea, but it's not my responsibility there. It's them and their decision how to get it off. But they got it off, and then we got the other pallet off quite easily, and I was all done and away off site by 20 past 8. So pleased with that. That's say £135 job done for today by 8:20 in the morning. There isn't going to be a lot of work around Bow, E3 and that area. I made the decision immediately I was going to make my way out of town and head towards Barking. Couple of retail outlets, places there. One's got a Costa coffee, and it was an early start and I hadn't really had much breakfast, so I thought I'm going to grab myself a coffee, something to eat. So we got there at 8:40, and this is where the day started to become frustrating. The CX was busy. There's lots of jobs popping up. I have my parameters set at 50 miles, so you know it's quite a wide area, and obviously you've got the jobs where you live as well, so they're overlapping. And I'm putting prices on and I'm not really getting anywhere. There was a job, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you some of these prices I quoted. I do sometimes get accused of being too cheap, and I'm also the first to admit that sometimes I feel I've done jobs for maybe £10 or £20 less than I really would like. But the CX is what it is. It's a bidding zone, and it's a marketplace, and situations change. Days are busier than others. Weather will make a difference. It slows traffic down. There's all sorts of factors. So anyway, this is what are some of the jobs I quoted on today. And there was one from Dagenham going to Feltham and Oxford. Total of 78 miles, small van job. I quoted £100. You're going into Feltham, Airport Way, and they can sometimes be busy. I don't think that's too cheap, and I don't think that's overly expensive. There was a job from Purfleet to Stevenage, 47 miles, small van, £60. Maybe £50 would have got that job, maybe even £40 would have got that job. I don't know. What do you think? There was one job from Brentwood to High Wycombe. No, sorry, that's not right. I can't read my writing now where it was going. Hinckley, sorry, Hinckley, yes. 111 miles, small van job. Now I put £100 on that. I'm thinking, well, it's £100 and Hinckley's a good area. I didn't get that one. And there was another job from, now this really frustrated me. There was a job from Barking going to Colchester. The CX was telling me I was 8 minutes away from the pickup. I could work out which industrial estate it was on. It's 55 miles to Colchester, small van job. I put a price of £60 on. Now again, some will say that's too cheap, some will say that's market right, and some will say that's too expensive. Didn't hear anything. 10 minutes later the job disappeared and came back on. Same job, same pickup, same delivery, 55 miles, but it was now a medium van. So do I stick another tenner on it? I went, no, I'm going to leave it at 60. Now I think then that is bang on, and I think more people will say that's probably bang on, rather than being too cheap or too expensive. But I didn't get that job either, and that's what I found frustrating. I'm 8 minutes away. I've been doing this 2.5 years now. I've got, I think, 480 positive feedbacks, no negative feedbacks, and I think £60 for a medium van. What more do you want? I've got my own theories why I didn't get it, but they're going to stay with me and nowhere else. But that was frustrating. Anyway, we carry on, and a few minutes later another job appeared, this time from Brentwood, going to St Leonard's on Sea. 64 miles, small van. Now, St Leonard's on Sea, it's not a great area, and frustration is now starting to kick in because I've missed out on some jobs. Time is starting to tick on. I was expecting a good day today. I was expecting at least 2 more jobs on top of the one I've already done. So I'm thinking ahead of myself. I'm looking at a target day of 250, 300. So I put a price of £80 on this, and part of me wasn't expecting to get it. But anyway, I got a phone call. Are you still available? Yes, I am. Okay, lovely. I'm going to ring my customer and I'll get back to you in 5 minutes or so. Fantastic. Now, I'd said on the quote I was 30 minutes away. Just having a quick look at the postcode for the Brentwood pickup, I was more likely 35 minutes away. So I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm not getting any luck here anyway. I'm going to start making my way towards Brentwood, and by the time he rings me, I've shaved 5-10 minutes off that 30 minutes estimate. 10 minutes later, I got a phone call. Just before the phone call, the job appeared on my bookings, and I had a quick look at it. And there was the pickup address, but at the bottom of the actual industrial estate, let's call it that, it said Chelmsford C1 underneath Brentwood CM14. So that was slightly confusing because I'd quoted on CM14. Anyway, the guy rings me up, said, job's on, I've sent it through to you. I went, lovely, I've got it. It was a difficult line. He was driving, I think, and it wasn't quite clear what he was saying, but it was a small van job, and I think he was just trying to tell me the dimensions of the piece. But I've got a long wheelbase, so I couldn't really see there was going to be any issues with whatever it was I was picking up. And I asked him about the pickup. I said, your address isn't very clear. It's saying Chelmsford CM1 underneath Brentwood CM14. And he said to me, no, it's the Chelmsford CM1. Now, that is approximately 15 miles, 20 minutes further on than CM14. And I didn't do anything about it because at the end of the day, the actual job may still be the 64 miles that it's quoted as loaded miles. I've got a fair idea of distances, but I'm not a robot. So I thought, I'm not going to say anything. We'll leave it and we'll see what happens maybe when we get there. So I was a little bit later than the 30 minutes because I had the extras to do. Anyway, we found the place, and it was one large window. It was enormous. It had to go in at a 45-degree angle to get into the van, and we lodged it between one of the wheel arches and the other side wall, and covered it in blankets and secured it down. It was all safe for transit. It took 3 guys to get this in. And obviously, it being a window, it's got glass, and I'm always a little bit with glass. It's like, fragile, blah, blah, blah. But, okay, we go with it. Stuck the delivery address in the sat-nav, 80 miles. So that extra 15 miles or so that I'd done to get to the pickup was now on top of the original price. It's frustrating again. And maybe this is where I let myself down, and it's a lesson for all you guys and girls. Maybe I should have rung him up and said, it's now extra mileage, and I want more money. And I didn't because of this other reason when he'd phoned to confirm the job. And I've never had this before, and I'm sure plenty of you have. And after the phone call was ended, I understood why he said what he did. He said to me, if you want paying quicker, send the invoice to me and not the shipper, let's call them shipper X, that the job is showing on the CX, because he doesn't pay as quick as I pay. So the upshot, I know what you're all thinking, the upshot is this is a guy who is probably an owner driver who piggybacks on someone else's CX, and he wants me to send the invoice direct to him, because if I presumably do it through the CX, shipper X is going to take a commission out of the cost of that invoice, which is probably going to be the profit that the customer to me is making. And he's obviously got this job off somebody else, and that's why he had to ring them back to make sure that the job was still on. I didn't do anything about it. I've just got on, done the job, end of. But again, it's frustrating. got ourselves down to the delivery point. It took 5 guys to get this window off. It was so heavy and they struggled, but they did it. I wasn't involved. I didn't want to get involved because I didn't want any damage to fall on my shoulders, but we got it all off. As you would expect, absolutely nothing down in St Leonards-on-Sea. I've made my way back and it's just been frustration after frustration after frustration. Every job is going in the wrong direction. There's some lovely jobs down to Cornwall, Birkenhead, all for 8 o'clock delivery tomorrow morning I can't do. There's jobs into London. I don't really want to finish up in London at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's just been one of those days, an absolute frustration. So at the end of the day, I've just done the 2 jobs really. I've just done the 135 into Bow and the £80 down at St Leonards-on-Sea. It makes 215. It's above target for the day. Yesterday I was below target, so if I add them together at C65, divide by 2, £182.50, I'm still within my daily target. But it feels like today's a disappointment, and it shouldn't be really, but that's how it feels, and it feels frustrating. But that, I suppose, ladies and gentlemen, is transport. Anyway, I couldn't find any more. I've come back to Essex, I couldn't find anything. I've managed to get a job for the morning, 8 o'clock pickup. I'm just going to go with that and I'm heading home. I'm sorry this has rambled on. This is the longest one I've ever done, 17 minutes. So I apologise for that, but I think today needed some explanation and some thought. Yeah, anyway, there we go. Have a great evening all, and we'll talk again tomorrow. All the best. Cheers, Paul.